The price of an AK-47 rifle is said to be between 300 and 500,000 naira. Yet, the weapon appears to be easily available for use by non-state actors in Nigeria. The deadly consequences of proliferation of small and light weapons in Nigeria is reflected in the number of fatalities and deaths arising from armed robberies, terrorism, cult clashes, militancy, and attacks by herdsmen. Nigeria, according to a UN report, accounts for 70% of the 500 million small arms and light weapons in West Africa. The federal government is, however, not folding its arms, as it has dedicated agencies with many interventions to curb the trend. The recent cases of insecurity across the country, it's necessary to find out how successful are these interventions and where we are with checking the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria. I am Shegun Ojelade. In the studio with me is the Secretary Alumni Association of the National Defense College and former Director, National and Military Strategy of the same institution, National Defense College, Abuja. He is Air Commodore Darlington Abdullahi. I welcome you to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I also have with me in the studio a security risk management expert, Kabiru Adamu. I welcome you also to the program.
Thank you.
Now, Air Commodore, from the statistics we just gave there, it is said that 70% of small arms and light weapons that we have in the West African sub-region are domiciled in Nigeria. That is huge. To start with, what are small arms and light weapons? Every one of us know AK-47, but what are small arms and light weapons, and how serious is the challenge in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. Small arms and light weapons, let me break them down. Small arms. Small arms are like handheld, non-portable weapons consisting of, like you said, rifles, handguns, even the AK-47, which is part of it, even manual, semi-automatic, and some automatic, full automatic weapons, you know, fall into the category of small arms. But for light weapons, we're talking about higher caliber ones. I mean, medium caliber weapons, mostly vehicle mounted, you know, and including missiles,
launchers.
Yes, missile launchers, even mines, you know, in that category too. Okay. And I mean a host of weapons that.
How serious is the challenge in Nigeria?
It's a very serious challenge. First of all, please let me just comment on this, on the aspect of the cost, which was mentioned earlier. In a study carried out in 2013 by one of the media houses, an AK-47 rifle fully loaded with
magazines.
Yes, magazines, sells about 10,000 naira at some of at the border areas. Not as much as that. So it's become very much cheaper
and readily available.
And the availability, as we can see from the northern part of the country, a lot of armories were looted in the aftermath of the Arab Spring, and a lot of those weapons are finding their way to various countries. And with our porous borders, which we have been complaining about over the years, and still remaining like that, so those weapons easily come in. We've seen a lot of these weapons coming in by air, by sea, and I mean various means, in containers, and so on. And this portends a very serious danger for the country, because they are readily available, and the criminally minded individuals and groups have access to them.
Now, if we there's no point bemoaning our fate that the weapons are here. What failed us? When some other nations are not crying the way we're crying about the proliferation of what failed in Nigeria, and how can we ensure that we check this influx?
Okay, on the one hand, what failed us? Essentially, it's a failure of our ability to man and control our border points. My co-panelists have mentioned these border points: land, sea, and air border points. Most of these small and light weapons come through these border points. We don't manufacture most of them. A few of them are manufactured locally, but the percentage that are manufactured internationally and brought into Nigeria are higher. So we start from that point, our border point. And a lot of studies have been conducted over time to indicate how porous our borders are. Even the customs has been quoted as saying that there are over 1,000 identified illegal routes identified. There are several others that are unidentified, and this is the land border. Now, if you look at the sea and air borders, even those ones that are quote unquote legal and recognized by the authority, there are issues around corruption, the capacity of our security forces to man those type of borders, which I would say gratefully we've seen a slight change in recent years because of the discoveries that have come to light. In terms of what we can do to check this proliferation, several interventions have come in place at the national level and at the bilateral level, multilateral level. ECOWAS has come out with this. It has recommended the setting up of a commission by its member state. Unfortunately, that's why I think Nigeria is lagging behind. Virtually all the countries in the ECOWAS sub-region have established that commission. The bill for the establishment of that commission in Nigeria is still awaiting passage at the National Assembly. What we have in place is a presidential
presidential intervention
committee, and which has been in existence, if I'm right, for more than a decade. So it begs the question, when we agree that the crux of our problem, security challenge, is this factor, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, then one wonders why we're yet to have that commission in place.
Now, there is no doubt that we need a disarmament process. We had one in Niger Delta, for instance, and then one state government too did one recently, Benue. Now, is that what we need, and how do we begin to go about that to ensure that we mop up these weapons that are in the hands of non-state actors?
Yeah, thank you. The disarmament program that we carried out in the Niger Delta, I mean, was part of the amnesty program, took place some years back, and there was no way we could have stopped. I mean, what has been going on, we have stopped more weapons from flowing in, and like he said, a lot of them are being manufactured locally within the same region. So we still have lots and lots of weapons in that region. Over 380,000 weapons were recovered during that in the first and second phases of the amnesty program. But then what we have now, I guess, is a lot more than that. In other parts of the country, quite a lot are available. You could see how easily kidnappers, virtually the kidnappers, they use these weapons. They have them. Various criminal groups and so on have the herdsmen carry them openly. They are not even hidden. And I mean, this is a serious challenge for the security agencies.
So we need a disarmament process.
Yes, the disarmament process is good, but then there are some challenges when we do a disarmament process in Nigeria and we don't take steps to control the border, the entry points of these weapons. So just as you're collecting them, more are coming in, and moreover, a disarmament process that goes with financial rewards or something is a means of getting these people to go and buy another set and I mean to replace the ones they've handed over. Most of them don't even hand over all they have. I mean, they hand over just a few of them just to benefit
even
from
the obsolete ones.
Yes, just to benefit from what will come in the reintegration package that usually accompanies disarmament and demobilization. So definitely disarmament is good. It's a welcome idea, but it's only short-term. Unless we make efforts to check the entry points. We've seen the custom. I mean, seizing a lot of those weapons.
Yes. Let me stop you there. Based on what you have just said, we have seen a number of such display of interception of cache of arms at various levels, customs and even the military in their. But we have really not heard of somebody actually being punished. We hear of investigations going on. To what extent is the fact that, okay, well, even if you are caught, nothing is likely to happen. We call it impunity. To what extent is it a problem?
I would actually situate the origins of the problem in that the failure of our criminal justice system to punish offenders, and then on the other hand to air or give room to those who come to it seeking one form or the other of redress. It's very likely, even though no scientific investigation has proven this, but there are indications that some of these people who resort to carrying arms, as an example, the so-called herdsmen, may have done that because of the failure of the criminal justice system to address a challenge that they have. An example is cattle rustling. Their cattle was stolen and they went to it. So if we move that and correlate it to these people who are behind the gun running or weapon handling cases that we've seen by the customs and other security agencies, I agree with you. Till date, it's not on record that any of them has been punished. Even the ones that drew international attention, the infamous one where certain international citizens were associated with it, we did not get to the bottom of it. That kind of indication, that inability of our criminal justice system to punish those kind of offenders does not help our situation at all.
Okay. Now, the program is Nigeria Today. We are taking a look at proliferation of small arms and light weapon as one of the reasons for the pervasive crime and criminality in the land. We will take a short break now. We'll be right back.
Coming up on NTA News 24, Nigeria Today, 7:30, Monday to Friday, with exciting anchors on topical issues. Inspirators, a search for those who inspire others. Business 24, a business magazine program. Late edition repackaged. Fresh and exciting programming on NTA News 24. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The program Nigeria Today continues. My two guests are still in the house. Now, Ekomodo, we've heard of cases of security agents loaning out or renting out or outright sale of their weapons to criminal elements. to what extent is this also part of the problem that we are talking about? How can we safeguard even the weapons, legal weapons that are in the hands of state actors?
Yes, I think that is there's been a high level of indiscipline in with some of our personnel. We've heard of policemen loaning out their rifles, and some of them selling them as well. Customs officials or officers have been arrested. I mean, helping to clear illegal weapons and illicit weapons coming into the country, and I mean all the services are involved. Boko Haram, for instance, has very easily obtained weapons, either through attack on the armory of the various in the barracks and collected weapons and so on. These are serious issues that we really have to deal with, and the only way out is to ensure that we put in place a better control of the weapon systems that we have, and make it difficult for people. Although the laws are very strict on this, if you lose even your pistol, your rifle, and so on, you pay dearly for it. I mean that has been there. But then, like was said earlier, I mean, what are the punitive measures? What measures have been put in place to ensure that these things do not happen? Because a lot of them these are still going on, and probably the measures put in place are not adequate. So we probably need to be stricter about. We need better laws, to deal with the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is the build-up to 2019. The year of a general election. People say that if we're having some of these situations now, what will happen in 2019? I want you to advise both the politician, and government, especially in creating institutions that can help us before we get to 2019.
It's a very difficult one, and I'll be very frank. I've had the opportunity of traveling around the country to monitor several elections, and one factor that is constant is the involvement of non-state actors, armed usually to, unfortunately, support politicians, and this cuts across all the divides. I'm not going to single out any political party. I've been in situations where I've traveled from one location, maybe let's say a distance of 20 kilometers to 30 kilometers. In the first instance, I met a politician of a very popular political party, and I saw the non-state actors around him. And then the next group I met was another political party, their candidate. He also had the same non-state actors, youths usually, armed with crude weapons to protect him. And self-consciously I checked myself, I checked my vehicle. What symbol do I have that would indicate I'm against any of these political parties? And God help me if I had anything on my car to indicate that. So that is the danger that we're in, and like you indicated, this is the build-up to 2019 elections, and we're seeing the same cycle repeating itself. At the center of this is the political class, and sometimes I ask myself, if after all these killings, who do they want to rule? Because if they end up using non-state actors to kill the people they want to govern over, then I think the call should be specifically to them, to bring forward the interest of Nigeria at heart. These young people that they are arming, and unfortunately the two things we have to talk about them together: this small arms and light weapons, and drugs. And drugs. The two go together. Most of these youths take these drugs, and then they are armed and they can do anything to please their leader. So firstly, politicians. Second, the security forces. They are the ones who should limit this and control it, and unfortunately we are not seeing enough of that.
We have the presidential initiative on small arms and light weapons as an institution created to check this. How will you assess the performance of institutions of this nature, and to what extent can they really help in this fight that we're talking about?
Well, I don't think the commission or committee has been quite effective at all, because a lot of weapons are still coming into the country. I think that with such a presidential initiative, there should be a lot of collaboration, collaborative steps between Nigeria and its neighbors, with a view to checking the flow of weapons across borders and so on. I mean, that has not really worked the way it should be, because the weapons, well, let me say, the number of weapons are still increasing. The rate at which they are coming to the country, container loads are coming to the country. I mean, it's alarming and worrisome. So I think that, like he spoke on the election issues and so on, I think it will be difficult to keep the military out of elections in this country because of the use of this weapon. So while probably the policemen are at the polling centers and so on, there has to be a lot of deployment of the armed forces, in the surrounding environment to check those coming in with weapons and all that. Okay. But then another danger, it exposes us to danger from the known criminal groups like Boko Haram and so on. But by the time you pull forces, and surround them in those voting area, then you are opening up flanks for the non-state actors like Boko Haram and so on to take advantage.
Okay. Now, when we all get to this kind of junction that we are now, the problem is staring everybody in the face. What must we do? As we round up this program, how will you advise everybody, government, politicians, and even the general public? What can we do?
We have to ask ourselves where we want to go to. Do we want a safe and secure country where we can live happily? Once we agree on that, then how do we support the government to reduce that? It's about providing information. It's about the government using that information adequately, intelligence gathering, analysis, and the dissemination of that information. From the side of the media, the continuous projection of hate messages needs to stop. It adds to that. One thing that I think we didn't really talk about more is the fact that there is a market in Nigeria, and that's why these weapons are finding their way down to Nigeria. Why is there a market in Nigeria? Our population, and then the wealth that Nigeria, potentially,
those who can use it, the youths, many of them.
Exactly. So how do we limit these abilities? It takes us back to the ability of the security forces. How do they ensure that their work, irrespective of what they are, whether internal, civilian, or the military, how do they collaborate together, work together with the public for the common good?
Okay. Now maybe you want to add to that, especially on the aspect of political will to tackle the problem.
Yes, thank you very much. You see, there's this aspect that a lot of Nigerians are hungry. Let's face the facts. And this pushes people to want to force a living, out of those that they think have access. After all, as he said, I remember the song by Jimmy Cliff so many years ago. So many people are hungry. Too little people have everything, and so many have nothing. That is the situation we have. So it pushes people to use the arms to go and get a living. That's on one side. Yes, that's very important. Human security, very important. The other aspect is that the strength of the security agencies, the police, the armed forces, is below expectation. They cannot cope with the situation. The spread that we are seeing now, the armed forces are all over the country, while internal security is supposed to be the domain of the civil police. But then they are all involved right now, and that's a big challenge for us, for the protection of the territorial integrity of the country. Otherwise, why should armed militia just come in easily and go out?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, on that note, I want to say thank you, gentlemen, for all that you've said on the program. I must thank you, Air Commodore Darlington Abdullahi, for all that you've said.
Retired.
Wish you
Thank
the
you
very
very
best.
much.
And then on his left is the security and risk management experts. I must thank you, Kabiru Adamu, for all that you equally said on the program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having me.
This is where we call it a date on the program Nigeria Today for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition. I am Shegun Jeladi. Bye bye. Thank you.